Welcome to Season 3 of Yoga Corner Chats, where we dive deep into the wisdom of purpose-driven women who are rewriting life's rulebook. I'm your host, Shelby Phoenix, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. This season, we're breaking free from the ordinary, celebrating the extraordinary, and embracing the unapologetic pursuit of authenticity. Join us as we explore stories of resilience, self-discovery, and the pursuit of an uncharted path. Our conversations are more heart-centered than ever, delving into the core of what it means to lead a life in alignment with your values. We're shattering societal norms one episode at a time and redefining success on our terms. Each week, we'll be joined by incredible women, entrepreneurs, yoga teachers, wellness warriors, and more, who are daring to be different and inspiring us to do the same. Get ready for an abundance of inspiration, empowerment, and unfiltered authenticity. So if you're ready to trade conformity for creativity, perfectionism for purpose, and self-doubt for self-love, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and join our vibrant community of listeners who are choosing to live life authentically. Yoga Corner Chats is more than just a podcast. It's a journey. Let's embark on this path together towards a life that aligns with our deepest values. Are you ready? Roll out your mat, take a deep breath, and let's dive in. Press play and let the transformation begin. Welcome to Yoga Corner Chats, where real women, real conversations, and real transformation happen. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Yoga Corner Chats. My name is Shelby Phoenix, your host. And today we are joined by Kelsey with Diary of the Childfree. And today we're going to be talking about what it means to be child-free, why Kelsey chose to be child-free, and just diving into some questions about Diary of the Childfree. But before we get started, we're going to just settle in with a couple of deep breaths. I invite anyone who's listening to join us. So if it feels safe in your space, you're invited to close your eyes or take a soft gaze. Settle into whatever surface you're sitting on and sit up nice and tall. Let your shoulders relax down your back. Begin to inhale deeply through your nose, fill your belly, expand your rib cage, fill all the way to your collarbone. And then empty completely. 2 more like that. Inhale through the nose, fill your belly, fill all the way to the top. And let it go. One last big, deep belly breath. Biggest breath of the day. And relax. If your eyes are closed, gently open them. So, Kelsey, I'd love to start by giving you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to create Diary of the Childfree.
Of course, yeah. So we've already gotten into, my name is Kelsey. I'm 27 years old and I'm currently based out of Texas. And so I started Diary of the Childfree towards the end of 2021. I had actually just left kind of like a rather toxic job. So it's kind of like going through like the motions of figuring out more of like what I wanted to do, who I was, and how I wanted to proceed with this big life change. And so I was focusing more on living more authentically of like who I was and like understanding like what I didn't want to hide about myself either, in a sense, because being child free, it's kind of, I mean, it can be scary sometimes to let people know that information. So it started as a place to share my own personal thoughts that had previously just lived inside my phone notes. And so I was like, if I could get this out into the world just to like get what I needed to say out. And then eventually it became what it is today, which is great because what people share with me is how I felt at the beginning of the process.
Yeah. When I found you on TikTok, I really was attracted to your like humor and your funny take on some of the like stereotypes or perceptions of child-free people because it is a bit taboo sometimes, and I
Yeah.
know that it can attract haters.
It's
um,
a given, sadly.
yeah, so I was like, oh, I really want to chat with you because it's not all the time that I get to have conversations with someone who's like-minded in this way. So thank you so much for all that you
Or,
share.
well, I mean, it's hard as well too, because I mean, there's so many of us online, but the reality of finding someone like in person is, it feels a lot smaller than it should be.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important because I'm 32 and I didn't really realize I didn't want kids because I didn't really realize it wasn't like an option.
Mhm.
So like reading books and seeing other people like share online that, oh, that this is an option and like you're gonna be happy and fine. It's like,
For
oh,
sure. You're like all the people who are like coming at you, like, no, you need to do this. You're like, okay, well, that's not how it is for everybody, but
yes. Um, and what exactly led you to like make the choice to be child free, and how has that decision influenced your life?
of course. So similar to you, I didn't know that I wanted to be child free for probably like up until like my early 20s. And so for me, it's like I never felt comfortable with the idea of like having to one day have children or like birth in itself, because that's a whole other thing. But um so like I grew up in a very small traditional town, and so I wasn't exposed to a lot of like the child free takes on things. A lot of people just live that very traditional life where you have like the woman who stayed home, the men who worked, and like your two and a half children. And so it took me moving out to go to school and then later marrying my husband to kind of really process what I really wanted in life.
Yeah.
My husband, he's known he wanted to be child free since he was like 14 or 15. And so to meet someone who already knew that and like see someone who like made that choice was kind of like a first. And so was able to really help in that process of understanding, like, okay, I don't want that for myself either. And it kind of worked out like that.
Yeah. I was just thinking as I was listening to you share that process that some people listening might not know what it means to be child free exactly. And it might be obvious to some people, but I think that it would be fair to define what that means. What does it mean to you?
Of course. So to me, child free means that you are making an active choice not to have children, whether, I mean, there's endless reason. It's whatever your reason makes more sense to you. And then it's not a matter of not being able to have children, but actively taking a choice to not go about that way of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes gets lost in the definition, um, especially for people who want to have kids and can't, because sometimes those same stigmas are like placed on them, even though it's not a choice. Um, so we've kind of been talking about this, right? Like the choice to not be a parent is in and of itself like challenging norms. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you navigate and challenge societal norms and expectations as someone who is child free?
So how I would say is, I mean, it can be tough at first. I'm not going to lie about that. It takes a lot to get used to because people will, I mean, some will be pretty chill with it, others will almost personally attack you. But I think the matter of it is like just standing your ground and being like, no, like either like, I don't appreciate you saying that, or being like, no, that's not how this is going to work. Because a lot of the time, I mean, it's joked about, but it's true. People will be like, oh, well, you'll change your mind. You're too young to make that decision. But it's like you have no way to be able to know that that's the right or wrong decision for me. Only I know that. And so I think whether you stand up to them or even if you choose to ignore them, it's whatever you're more comfortable with, because not everyone is going to also be at that point in life where they want to what's the word? Kind of like stand up and blanking on the word right now. Just kind of like voice their opinion to
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. I'm wondering, did do you find that in your sharing of this, you've had struggles with like people who are closer to you, as well as maybe people who are just like, judging from afar.
I feel like sometimes yes and no. I feel like part of it is because I've always been vocal, like with families like, oh, you have kids. I'm like, no, I'm not. So they're like pretty aware that I'm not going to have children. And so I feel like they already got the message and I have no problem be like, okay, no, you're wrong. But I definitely feel just like how people in the child-free community talk about not exactly being able to have like full on like good conversations with family or friends because their world is children. I feel like it's also the same with family and friends with children trying
Yeah.
to like have a relationship or conversation with us because we don't have children. So like, okay, what do we talk about with you? Because that relation.
The Diary of the Child Free, it seems like you're building like a community of individuals who have chosen a child-free lifestyle. Can you share some insights into like the importance of having that community and support as people who have chosen not to have children?
Yeah, so community is so important. I feel now more than ever considering child free. I mean, it's always been around, but I feel like it's growing more and more aware to a lot more people that they have a choice in this matter. So I
Yeah.
feel like being able to look this stuff up and actually have the resources to be like, okay, I feel normal, I'm recognized within my choice because it wasn't always the case. I mean, even 5 years ago, trying to search child free, it was a lot harder. You had to like scour the internet and try to find books on this on the subject and just like little different things here and there. And now it's like you can type, I mean, child free into like TikTok or Instagram, and all this information comes up that you could scroll endlessly on and see so many different unique stories and just perspectives on the matter.
Yeah, I think that for me it was really affirming when I took I thought to look that up on Audible and like listen to some audiobooks. There was a really great one with like essays from all different types of people, and hearing like their choices, and you know it made me really realize that you know it was just affirming to know that there are other people who are having this question in their mind, or questioning the norm. So it's super affirming to see that kind of support like on social media as well.
Oh, by far, because like when like without the social media, it's like because of what you're surrounded with in the world, you're like, okay, like, is this normal? Am I a monster? Like, what is going on with me? And so to have kind of like that, um, just like that positivity to know that you're not alone in this and that there actually are like thousands, if not millions, of like-minded people out there.
Yes. So on the other side of the coin, there's lots of misconceptions and like stereotypes, obviously, about being child free. What are some stereotypes that you've encountered? And maybe you can debunk that.
Of course. So I think my favorite one that I hear most of the time is that I'm gonna die old and alone. But it's like, first of all, it's like I'm married, so I'll have like my husband, who's my I view as my best friend. So I have that as well. But also I feel like when you're child free, you have more time, but also resources to focus on making friendships and building all these different relationships that I feel like the fear that people have of being alone just is something that a person has to navigate themselves. Because if you can't be comfortable with that, then you're going to have that no matter what, because it's not a guarantee. You could be alone with children still as well, because you're the time from there, a baby to adulthood, so much could happen along the way.
My fiance and I just were on a walk talking about this interview, like, and he's like, I'm not a betting man. If everything goes right, like, then you get to, retire when they're in their 20s, but there's too many things that can go wrong along the way. Like, I can't make that kind of, like
Yeah.
risk.
Well, there's like too many, like, it's like, I'm not like, I don't worry about having like full control of my life, but I like to kind of know like what's to be expected like each day. And it's like so much could happen within just one day, let alone their whole lifetime.
Yeah. I noticed this in some online community, especially on Facebook, um, where in like Facebook groups of child-free people, there is this like, it feels like sometimes it's like pitting against each other. Like there's like two separate teams, or like if you're child-free, you must hate children. And I'm wondering what you kind of think of that like weird competition. I don't know if you'd call it a competition. I don't know what you'd call it.
I feel like it's like um I feel like it's like just different takes on child free. Like I know like a lot of the people that I know personally from like the child free community, it's like kind of like respecting, okay, some of you may hate children, some of you may not like go as strong as to say you hate them, but you don't mind them, like if you're out in public, let's say. And then some of them do enjoy them because a lot of us also have like nieces and nephews or friends with children. So it's just kind of like, I feel like almost like, I think it's called like gatekeeping in an essence of like what child free is, but I feel like there's no accurate depiction other than choosing not to have children.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, choosing to be child free, right, is a huge decision, almost as big as deciding to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked a little bit about your, decision making process and how your like partner played a role in that. Um, can you talk any more about like your decision making process and any factors that played a role in it?
Yeah, so I think on top from us deciding like almost like right away, so that's something I almost like tell everybody is like everybody is you need to almost have that discussion right away so you're both on the same page. But also I feel like some big factors were just how the world was going even back then to now. And even more happy now. But I feel like just the way like women are expected to live, like the two income household and things like that. I know for a fact that I wouldn't be able to just not stressfully go through life. I don't like feeling stressed. And so before when I worked my 9 to 5, I would come home and I'm like, there's no way I could like come home, have to clean, cook, get a child ready for bed and all that goes into that.
Yeah.
And just have to do that on repeat with no end in sight. And so
Yeah.
that was like a really kind of like big perspective, but even more so when like my sister and my husband's siblings had children. And it's like just seeing all of that they had to go through or experience and what their daily life looked like. I was like, I don't really want any part in that either. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll visit and like I'll be a part of their life, but I don't want that personally for my everyday.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, I would kind of like went through life like, oh, like it doesn't, I don't need to like make this decision because if I got pregnant, like I could make a decision then, or like, I don't know, I didn't really like affirm a decision until um Roe versus Wade was overturned, and I was like, I have to make a decision now, or someone else is gonna make it for me.
And like you don't want to be put in that situation either.
Yeah. So I think that like was one of the things that like pushed me over the edge. I was like, I can't now that if I was to become pregnant, there might not be an out. Like I feel like now I really have to weigh out the pros and cons before it happens and make a decision. Um, and that was a huge part of of my decision to like really make a choice about it. How do you think that has impacted the child free community in general?
I feel like a really massive impact. I talked to actually someone recently and they were telling me about how their doctor was getting just like an insane amount of calls for like sterilization and vasectomies just because of how things are going in the US. It's like no one wants to be caught in that in a sense, I guess, bad luck situation where you have no out, there's no options.
Yeah.
And now if there's another, like, let's say state with an option, they're trying to go after you for that as well. So
Right.
it's like you don't want to be caught in a situation where you know for a fact that the government who says they're in a sense pro-life isn't going to help you whatsoever.
Right. Absolutely. I find that that for a lot of people has had that effect to be like really fascinating, considering obviously like the intention is to have more people have children, but it also makes people really think about it more seriously, I think.
But just like putting more thought into like not just like in a sense like going around making all these risks, and it's like everything has to be so like thought but also overthought, because you're like with how expensive things are as well, and like you don't want to have an extra expense on top of a life that's already expensive. And
Yeah.
that was like also like a big realization lately too, is because technically it's like my husband and I should be living a decently comfortable lifestyle, but if like let's say a kid were to come along, that would drastically change. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how that would work out, to be honest. And it's amazing how like some people that happens to them and you can see them really struggle. And that's why like the poverty rates are increasing, and you just see so much bad stuff going on, in a sense that it makes sense that people are getting sterilized more than ever now.
Yeah. One of the other things that the first time I have had some really amazing friends who have been like super like TMI, overly honest about like being parents. And I love them so much for that. And I remember my friends, I used to be a teacher, and I think at the time, like probably making like $34,000 a year. You know, my friend's teaching, making the same, maybe a little more. And she's like, oh, yeah, when the baby's born, you know, at the end of the year, we'll have the toddler and the infant in daycare. It's going to be like $34,000 a year. I was like, what? I can't believe that's not right. Like, are you serious?
And then
Your
you're like, that's
whole
what some people
salary.
make a year. Yeah.
And that was before COVID. So
I can't imagine now. It's probably like 50K a year.
well, but yeah, that's always in the back of my head too. No. um,
Yes, no, it's like, and that's why I feel like so many people become stay-at-home moms too, because they're not given much of a choice. You're like, well, I either work to basically put children in daycare, or I can just stay home and they have the, in a sense, the security of a parent.
right. Yes. So I'm really curious if your identity and lifestyle as being child free has allowed you to focus on any other aspects of your life or personal growth.
Oh, by far. So like for me, I would say I'm one of those people who has like a new hobby almost every week. I like I like to be able to like focus on just like exploring new things. Both my husband and I are very creative, so it's like we're open to be able to explore like different creative sides and have the time and ability to be able to either spend on it or go out and do it, but also be able to travel and explore things we never got to do in our youth,
Yeah.
and just have no, I guess, limitations on being able to do that. It's like you can just pick up and be like, I want to do this today, let's go. I mean, aside from work, but just having that freedom. It's like I personally don't like to feel tied down too much.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't want to be in a place where it's like, okay, I want to do this, but I can't because I have to think of someone else. It's like, that's where people are like, oh, you're selfish. And I'll say, well, yes, I am, because I enjoy doing stuff for me and what's for the benefit of myself, because I only have this one life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love I the I don't know, the reaction of your selfish is interesting to me in the realm of like being child free or having children. And I'm the same way. I'm like, yes,
I am selfish. I do this for me. And what's the other one? Oh, like you're lazy, right? If you don't want to have kids. I'm like, yes, like I am. I want to come home and like relax or, have a clean house or like whatever it is. And that's
That's like
okay.
and that's like a big thing too, especially like after work. It's like you don't have to come home, especially as a woman. You don't have to come home and have to do more work, basically a second job as people compare it to. And so you want to have that time to relax and unwind before you get up and do it again.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
being able to just like, because most of us, I'm sure we work rather hard these days. Most of us putting in like 40 more hours a week sometimes. And so you want to be able to use that money to spoil yourself because it's so like, I guess, short lived in what you're able to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone who's like on the fence or maybe hadn't thought of this before or is just considering this type of lifestyle, what advice or support can you offer them?
So I would say when people are on the fence, I would just advise them to not rush their decision and just lead with whatever their gut is more so telling them. Like if you start to feel like, okay, you know what, I'm 100% comfortable with doing this, like I feel excited, then maybe having a child is right for you. But if you kind of have those worries or kind of, I guess, like anxious thoughts, maybe wait on it and just enjoy your life how it is as you currently are living it, because if the time comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There shouldn't be this pressure or rush put on parenthood.
Yeah. Especially like because that pressure starts like when we're really young, like when we're in our
Yes.
early 20s, basically. And at that point, most people haven't had the time to like, you know, have self growth or, focus on themselves and all already. I mean, even younger, right? We got baby dolls, like it's like we're literally baked into us.
You're growing up, you're like 4 years old. They're like, oh, you're going to be a great mom one day. And you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Um, what are some of the positive aspects or freedoms that come with choosing to be child free, and how do you celebrate them?
So I think a big one for me is probably, like I said before, is like the traveling. And so growing up in my youth, I didn't get to travel as much. So being able to do it now while I'm still able to and not have to wait till retirement or when I'm older is a
Yeah.
big perk. But also like I feel like it's underappreciated to so many, just being able to up and leave your house whenever.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I like getting in the car and just going like that and not having to be like, okay, like we have to pack this or did you forget that? Be like, make sure to put the kid in their car seat.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking about that this morning. Like I wake up really early and my fiance sleeps in before he works from home. And like I woke up early, did some stuff, and then like went back to sleep. And when I
That's a
woke
big
up,
one. It's like
when I woke up an hour later, I was like, I would not be able to do that like at all.
yeah,
I
that's
would
like
have
me.
already
So
been.
it's like we're like the opposite.
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
I'm the one who sleeps in, my husband is the one who gets up early and he'll like sometimes like well he takes a nap in the afternoon. But that's like that perk. It's like I sleep in, he takes the nap. And
Right.
so with I mean you wouldn't be able to do that in any other way. You'd have someone waking you up at like 4 a.m. to be like feed me.
Yes, exactly. Um,
I mean sometimes our dogs do that, but at least this one
right.
time.
Yeah, our cats too. Yeah, for sure. What are some goals or plans you have for Diary of the Child Free?
So I think just continuing to grow it and just shed more of like a raw, real approach to being child free, but also spreading positivity. So
Yeah,
lately I've been trying to just broaden the horizons on different like what being child free means to different people. And so it's not always going to be like a reflection of, let's say, what child free would be from my perspective, but also taking into the people who I've spoken with like different perceptions of what they have, and just being able to share that. Eventually, like I would want to just like get to know people more and just be able to share their stories and shed light on what it means for them to be child free.
It sounds like continuing to build that community and like shine a light on people's voices is going to be really important moving forward for you.
Oh, definitely. I think especially with, I mean, now that child free is becoming a more common word amongst the world as a whole, there's more, I feel like, negativity more than ever. So I feel like also fighting back against that and being like, okay, like, no, we aren't these stereotypes.
Yeah.
And just sharing the enjoyment of our lives and just showing that it's not, in a sense, that we're bragging, as just showing that you can still not go down this path that people tell you is the only path for you, but that you can be happy with whatever you choose.
Yeah, you can choose the path that feels authentic to you.
Exactly.
If anyone's looking to follow you or find more information related to being child free or like connect with your community, where can they find you?
Of course. So I'm under Diary of the Child Free under Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can also find me on Threads, but I don't know how many people use that. I know is like a hot minute there for a second. But mostly everything that's on there you can find everywhere else as well. But also, I mean, on there as well, I share some of like the books and just occasionally articles that I've enjoyed reading or that other people have shared that really give insight to being child free or going against like some of the myths with scientific research.
Oh, awesome. And I'll make sure to link this all in the show notes when this is published. I wanted to send you gratitude for sharing your story, your knowledge, and for sharing your time as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for joining us today on Yoga Corner Chats. I hope you found our conversation with Kelsey from Diary of the Child Free as inspiring and enlightening as I did. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to life choices, and it's essential to respect and celebrate the paths we choose. If you want to learn more about the child-free lifestyle, be sure to check out Kelsey's platform, Diary of the Child Free. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you meaningful and empowering conversations. And if you know someone who might benefit from Kelsey's insights or our podcast in general, don't hesitate to share it with them. You never know whose life you might positively impact. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and remember, your unique journey is worth celebrating. Thanks for being a part of our community. Until next time, stay well, stay inspired, and stay true to yourself. Chat soon.